The Right Weight project is designed to help horse owners understand what the right weight for their horses is. Over 80% of leisure horses in the UK now are overweight, which makes it impossible for owners to understand or recognise when their ponies are at the right weight. This is Rhea. Rhea's a 15-hand Welsh Section D mare, and what we're going to do with Rhea is exactly the same thing that we did with Chandler. So we're going to go through the fat scoring system that I explained with him. So the first thing we're going to do, just like we did with Chandler, is have a feel along the top of her neck, see whether there's any build-up of fat there. Now, she has got quite a lot of mane, so it is a bit tricky to figure out what's hair and what's neck. But if you have a feel along the top there, you can just see there is a wobble on top there.
Yeah, it's nothing like Chandler's. So
it's not anything like as big as his, but there is definitely a bit of a build-up.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
But then, just with Chandler, we need to have a look at her neck and shoulder. So run the hand down her neck and onto her shoulder blade to see whether there's any build-up of fat there. Now, you can quite clearly see her shoulder bone is nicely defined. You can see the difference between the neck and the shoulder. There isn't that build-up of fat in there. If you have a feel, you can feel that there isn't the build-up of fat there like there was on Chandler.
No.
And then feeling for her point of shoulder again, that's nice and easy to feel as well.
Oh, yeah.
So on that 5-point system, yes, she's got a bit of a build-up on the top of her neck, but this area is absolutely fantastic. So overall, on the 5-point system, I'd give her a 3.5. So she's carrying a little bit too much, but it's not bad at all. She's certainly not carrying anything like as much weight there as Chandler was. And moving on to her middle area, we're going to put our hands over the spine like we did before. Again, feeling for whether there's any build-up of fat either side. See, we want that nice arch over the spine. We don't want to have a flat hand. So if you have a feel there, you can see my hand's not quite as curved as I'd like it to be. It's starting to flatten off a bit. So she has got a bit of a build-up either side, although I haven't got a totally flat hand, so it's not horrendous. Mm-hmm. And then again, as with Chandler, we're feeling down her side for the ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum of the ribs. Now, if you remember with him, we couldn't feel them at all. But actually, if you have a feel of her, you can feel them very easily. Now, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Now I know what you mean when you go ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum.
You can feel that quite clearly on her. They're not sticking out. She's not too thin by any means. But that's nice. That's what we want to see on our horses. So, again, she's carrying a little bit too much weight along the top, but this area is perfect. So on that 5-point system, I'd give her a 3.5 again on this area. And then moving on to the bottom.
Actually, I was just going to ask you a question. Yeah. Before we do that, you're saying that she's not too lean. What about this bit here?
She's got a bit of a dip in here. That isn't anything to worry about. That is simply her conformation. It's just the way that she's built. She's got that covering there. As I say, she's carrying a little bit more than we'd like to see. The ribs you can feel, but they're not sticking out. She's certainly not too skinny there at all. So that is just the shape that she is. That's nothing to worry about on her at all. So if we then look at her bottom, again, as with Chandler, we're looking for whether she's got that build-up of fat either side of the spine. So we want the nice rounded curve. What we don't want is to have that apple bottom shape. So if we go and have a look at her bottom, what you can see there is she has got that build-up into an apple bottom. It's not that bad. It's not very defined, but she has definitely got that build-up there. Yeah. So on the 5-point system, I'd have to give her a score of 4 on her bottom, which is fat. But that's obviously her danger area. As I said before, they do tend to store the weight in different places. That's obviously the area that she tends to struggle with more than the other parts of her body. So overall, we've got a score of 3.5 on the neck and shoulder, 3.5 on the middle, and 4 on the bottom. So on average, that's just over a 3.5. Now, as I said before, what we're looking for is somewhere between a 2 and a 3. So she is carrying a bit more than we'd like, but she's not horrendous by any means. Now, believe it or not, when Rhea came into us, she was carrying a huge amount more weight than she is now. She was actually over 16 stone heavier than she is now. And if you imagine, how much extra weight that is, the build up across the ribs, her bottom was a lot bigger than it is now. So she's doing really, really well. She's going in the right direction. She's only been with us 9 months. So the yard staff have worked very hard to get the weight off her. She's looking a million times better than she was. There is still a little way to go, but she's going the right direction. She's doing really, really well. So we've got the fat score for Rhea. We know that she's carrying a little bit more weight than we'd like to see, but we don't know how much she actually weighs. Now, what we can do now is pop a weigh tape on her, which is basically like a tape measure for getting the weight of your horse. And I'm going to show you how to use that. The tape that we're using is double-sided. It's got a pony side and a horse side. And Rhea's 15 hands, so we're going to use the horse side of the tape with her. So all we're going to do is just pop the tape over at the lowest point of the withers. And then making sure that it's not twisted, we're just going to bring it up as close as possible to her elbow. So it's got a bit of a diagonal on there. Now, you want to hold the tape firmly round her, but not so firmly that you're getting an indentation, because that's cheating. But you also need to make sure you haven't got your hand underneath, because that's going to make the horse heavier than they really are. And if I just put the tape round her and read off, she's coming up at 475 kilos. Okay, so now we know how much Rhea weighs, and that's vital to make sure we're giving her the correct dose of wormer, or if we're ever transporting her anywhere, to make sure we're not overweight on the horse box. And it's very, very useful to get into the habit of weight taping and fat scoring your horse on a regular basis. Perhaps do it every couple of weeks or so, because we see our horses every day, and it's very, very difficult to notice any minor changes in their weight just by looking at them. By using the tape, you'll spot any changes, either gains or losses in weight, far more quickly than you'd pick them up just by looking at your horse. But one thing that's important to remember is that you should pop the weight tape on the horse at the same time of day, because their weight can fluctuate anything up to about 20 kilos over a 24-hour period. So if you do it at the same time, you're comparing like for like, and you get a far more accurate reading. Weight tapes are very widely available. You'll be able to pick one up from your feed merchants or tack shops. But if you don't have a weight tape, you can actually just use a piece of baler twine, wrap round, and just mark off where they are before. It won't give you the weight, but it will be useful as a monitor to see whether they've gained or lost anything since last time you did it.